It all started with these guys. Pete's been riding the local trail since the 1980s. And like many of us, Pat, Brian, and Matt came for school and never left. These guys have been riding together for over 30 years. And in that time, they've carved out some of the finest trails in Florida. From shit buckets to tree tags, they've thrashed through much of Gainesville's gnarliest terrain, paving the way for everyone else. They've never met a spoils pile they couldn't conquer or a swamp they couldn't plow through.
Why do we do this?
These four guys started something that some would consider sacrosanct. A mountain bike scene in the unlikeliest places that has thrived for over 3 decades. As much as the founders loved their local trails, they craved more adventure, so they ditched the Florida flatlands for a 24-hour race across Canaan Valley, West Virginia. Florida riders rarely see elevation climbs like these. From steep climbs to rocky descents, they rode those rugged trails, embracing the unknown. Their handmade headlamps barely penetrated the night, but they were guided by adrenaline. United as a pack, they conquered the race with relentless tenacity. Not that they won, not even close in fact. There's a rumor that one of the guys was passed on the Bunny Hill by a guy on a single speed wearing a tutu, but they finished, coming in first among all other Florida teams, so there's that. And the adventure didn't end there. The 24 hours of Canaan only fueled their fire, and they now crave the ultimate, the Great Divide. The ride is the definition of go big or go home. The route crisscrosses the Continental Divide from north to south, starting in Canada and finishing at the Mexican border. But what does that have to do with Gainesville, you might ask? Well, Gainesville trails had conditioned them for this moment. It's widely known that Florida mountain bikers are fast because we simply can't stop pedaling. No pedal, no progress. Everything was DIY. Homemade lights as heavy as a car battery, and not very bright. This was the birth of the night rides, and they're still going strong to this day. We've come a long way since then. Back in Gainesville, the trail system was growing, and fast. New riders came on board and wanted even more trails, so they built them. Unlike those buttery trails in West Virginia and out west, we had flat, swampy, mosquito-infested trails. Trails that wrapped around homeless camps and hunting grounds.
And as people started building trails and getting excited about building trails, like there was kind of just a big growth spurt, with a lot of different players helping, and they were making, more mountain bike proper trails.
And I got a whole bunch of aerials, and we used to just put up aerials and be like, okay, so we came off here, and we try to figure out where this trail was and figure out, okay, how can we get to here from there kind of deal. Ironweed, where the Samurai stands, it's just flowy and fast and fun. And there was the 300 yards of hell. It took us, I don't know, 8 or 9 rides to get through there. And I remember the night we finally got through, it was pouring rain. There were 6 of us or 5 of us on that ride. We just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We finally got it figured out. And then eventually we got this new route figured out and got all the trail shit figured out. And but then there was we had it from the east side for a ways, we had it from the west side, And then we'd always get fucked up and have to dump back out on the golf course and try and figure it out again. Because it was all just scrub, it's palmetto. It was just a palmetto field. It was just like, there were no deer trails through it. And we couldn't, so finally we made our way and got it. It took, all these trails. I mean, there would be so many times where just, the benefits of all our bleeding, everybody's reaping the benefits nowadays, man. You got the Google and Strava to tell you where to go.
The Homeless Hills, I remember, if I remember correctly, that Robert Bounds and Matt cut that trail.
Yeah, that used to be filled with homeless people, and there'd be a car parked back there with a prostitute in it, and you'd pass by and ring your bells and laugh. But then the county got that, shut that down, and we went in and basically connected homeless camps together. You find a little trail to the 5-gallon bucket filled with shit, and then find the other end of it on the other side of the trail, and we connected all the trails, got them together, and made a good little network. It was great. The trail names. Straight out of Swampton.
And 25 bumps.
The Rancher.
Yeah, Mandate too.
A BCM.
Do Audubon. Vivid's Arm.
Taco Charlie.
Okay. Now, so
Jailbreak.
BCM.
Alligator Alley.
Power Line.
A Baker Act.
Wall School Hill.
Pipla Choco Trail.
Behind the President's House.
Target Jumps.
8th Avenue.
Bedland.
FERRARO Radio. Yeah. Yeah, Raiders.
The Intestine Trail, which they shut down immediately.
Wow.
Ironweed.
OG loves
The Root Loop.
Plus the Hale Trails.
Belvedere.
I really love the Northern Arch.
They weren't all mountain bike trails. There were jumps, some of them huge, like die if you don't land right jumps. He's on the drop in. He's thinking about it, and he drops in. Might roll, gets a little bit there, comes around, hits it. He came right at me, you fucker.
Yeah, I mean, I think I started riding the Target Jumps 2009-ish, and just stumbled across them while riding through, I think doing a big loop.
Yeah, there were a bunch of trails. There was a good loop through there with like serious drop-offs. Like, yeah, so it was you did 2 laps out there and you were seeing stars, because you're either cranking up short, steep hell, and then adrenaline running like crazy doing a drop down.
And then, went back a few times with some other people. And I don't know who was building out there. I never really built anything out there, but recognized the stuff that was being built, and Jim and I and some other people went out there.
So the BMX kids got in there and did that whole line of jumps and built this crazy platform off the trees with a ramp that came down to get lots of speed.
Yeah, I feel like there was a couple different evolutions of them. I remember the first time that I'd seen jumps out there, there was like a huge 30-foot gap, or 20, 30-foot gap, like these big jumps that are coming down one of the big hills. But then later in 2010, when we were riding, someone else had had built those different lines that went out south, I guess, and made all those, there was those little trails in there with toboggan run style stuff. But yeah, the earliest ones were probably years before that, I think. And there were some huge ones that I've never seen anyone ride them, honestly. I was wondering who rode those. Yeah, sketchy wooden structures back there. Those are awesome.
Group rides started popping up every night of the week. To onlookers, it must have looked like an alien spaceship landing as they blazed through the woods. All of this has led to a few loosely organized events as well. We've got the annual Summer Steamer, which is hell. There's also the not-so-annual Grand Fondo, stopping by all the local breweries. Beer is good. Beer and mountain bikes is better. They also held a time trial in 2009, a 2.5-mile race through the flooded trails of 8th Avenue.
And so, yeah, they just set it up and had a time trial at all of 8th Ave. Gus raced it in a wetsuit, and I think he almost gave him heat stroke because
I came up last night.
Yeah. So him in the wetsuit was the 8th Ave time trial.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what that was. And the winner of the 8th Ave was like special gift. It was a pink cruiser bike with truck nuts hanging off the saddle. So I don't know if Bounds still has that, but that's what he got to take home.
But every year, riders gather for the Tour de Gainesville, TDG, a race, but not a race, connecting all the roughly 70 miles of in-town trails.
There was a lot of those TDGs I remember hearing about. You know, it went out on an email on a listserv that you had to be on the listserv to know about. Hetrick would say something maybe like the Wednesday before, hey, there's this thing.
There are no announcements or promotions. The people in the know just seem to materialize at the same time and in the same place the week before Easter every year for the past 22 years.
2002 was the first Tour de Gainesville. And there were 12 of us on that ride. Me, Pat, Brian, Wes, Ryan, Kyle, Jim Smart, Bob Kennedy, and I'm missing 3. So that was like 50 miles, rolled out, did the power lines, did the old Hale trails, did the whole big loop. We used to have a regular 50-mile loop in town, which basically hit the close stuff in town, went out to the power lines, hit the Hales trails, and then we'd come back into town, Fred Bear and the crazy drops, and then hidden campus and all that good stuff. It used to be 50 miles, and then I think Tobin was one, and a couple other people were like, "Oh, come on, we need a metric century." So then it became the metric century. So now that's what got it up into the 60s on a regular basis. One year it was 72. It was brutal. It was horrible. And of course it gets harder because we just keep getting more trail, and then it's like more single track for that same distance instead of chasing down a road for a couple of miles here and there.
My first was the Dirty Dozen. Can't remember which year. I do remember going to Matt Herman's house afterwards. That was the place to hang out. If memory serves, Brent and Bobby were running around with American flag Speedos, I believe, after the ride with a giant trophy. So all the tours that I've gone on, lunch has always been at Paul's, at Bikes and More.
Paul jumped in, I think he's been doing it like 10 plus years now. The first time the official lunch, like the lunch stop at a bike shop, yeah. Other than that, it was always at someone's house.
So you see, mountains aren't really necessary for mountain biking. With a decent bike, a helmet, some bug spray, and a sense of adventure, you've got all you need right here.